All right, it is 12 minutes past 9 o'clock Central African time. I hope that the new week is going to be a great one for you. And we're going to start it with our gender-based violence conversation. It affects people in different demographics. And we usually forget the elderly when we have the gender-based violence conversation. Yet the experiences of elderly survivors is one that we should talk about because it's highly unrecognized and underreported. And today we're going to be speaking about what is called elder abuse, which encompasses physical, emotional, sexual, financial harm, frequently environments where victims are dependent and vulnerable. Older adults, particularly women, face unique challenges, including social isolation, stigma, and limited access to support services. Our friend on the show is Barbara Kamba-Nyathi, who is the CEO and founder of Bold Dialogue, also an author, a lifestyle and wellness coach. Barbara, it's always great having you on the show. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Benjamin.
Yeah,
Morning.
when we talk about GBV, we forget about the elderly, as I just mentioned in that intro. Why is it that that's the case?
I think most of the times people are so preoccupied with with what is happening to the young people. We forget that even the elderly people are also experiencing the challenges that we're experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the awareness campaigns or the activism is around young people. And when people say women, I don't know why we forget the elderly. It's maybe people who can still be productive, physically able, maybe childbearing age range there. We tend to forget our elders that they can also be victims, and they actually are victims of abuse.
Is it because we live in a culture that's ageist, or is it more complicated than that?
I think it's way deeper than just being ageist. We can take it back to pre-colonialist times, whereby families lived together. We lived as families and everything. After colonialism, families were fragmented. Young people moved maybe to the cities, leaving the elderly in the villages. And because of life happening and the traumas related to the separation, people became more concerned about the people they have with them in their immediate families, because that's who they had, that's who they see every day, and sort of forgot about the elderly people.
Yeah. Barbara, we can really pinpoint some of the most fragile people or individuals in our societies. Obviously, compared to men, we know that women are more vulnerable. And that's why gender-based violence affects women the most. In our societies, children are very vulnerable, but we seem to forget about the elderly because the older they become, not only are they physically vulnerable because they can't move like they used to, but they also become financially vulnerable, and abuse is easy to take place in those spaces because when people are vulnerable, they usually don't know how to receive help. What are the different types of abuse that many elderly people face within our communities?
I want to believe verbal abuse is very common and rife in our communities.
True.
People will say mean things, hateful words to the elderly, and because the elderly do not have money to support themselves, they are forced to put up with this verbal abuse, knowing that if they speak up against it, if they say something, they will not get any financial assistance. Then we move on to emotional abuse, mental and emotional abuse. It's the same with the verbal abuse. They are made to feel like they are less of humans, they are burdens, and because they don't have the financial means to sustain themselves, they have to put up with the abuse and they can't report to anyone.
Yeah, and it's very tricky, right? Because it's multi-layered, as you highlighted, that the abuse can be, verbal, but it can easily manifest to also being physical, because older persons can't really protect themselves. But we've got a very apparent way of abuse here in South Africa that has been reported over and over again, and it's very prevalent in our communities here. And that's financial abuse, where you would have maybe those that are, living with the elder, and they would actually take their grant. That is also another abuse that also filters into these other areas, because if an elderly can't access their own finances, they can't take care of their health, they can't maintain their diet, but also there's other areas of physical abuse that could also filter into that.
You are so right. Financial abuse is when you are elderly and no longer able to provide for yourself. It becomes the umbrella of all forms of abuse. Everything can be related to, you can connect the dots to financial abuse, actually, because whether it's spiritual abuse, sometimes you are forced to do, to partake in certain spiritual activities in the family because you need them to take care of you. And maybe you're not comfortable. Sometimes it's maybe like we've talked about physical abuse, we've mentioned verbal abuse. It can be sexual abuse as well. Like you have to give sexual favors for you to be given money to, to live, to buy yourself basic commodities. And also maybe we can look at violence itself. Like if you don't report the violence, then you are still given money to buy food, to buy clothing, to pay rent where you are staying. So financial abuse is quite big, and it's not only in South Africa. You will discover that it's happening almost everywhere in Africa. The elderly are going through a lot.
Well, Barbara, stay there on the line. We'll continue having this conversation as part of our gender-based violence conversations. Today, we're looking at something that might not be focused on. Maybe it's because it's underreported, and maybe it's because a lot of the time the elderly are invisible in our communities. I also want to speak a little bit about, isolation and loneliness. I think they also these issues of gender-based violence. Barbara Kamba-Nyathi is a CEO and founder of Bold Dialogue, an author, a lifestyle and wellness coach. She joins us all the way from Zimbabwe. We'll continue the conversation after the break. Stay with us right here on The Move.
Africa Update on Channel Africa with Lulu Kabu.
Mozambique's opposition leader Venancio Mondlane has been charged with incitement to terrorism and disobedience. He faces a total of 5 charges. The charges relate to post-election violence that left hundreds of people dead. What punishment is he looking at?
The most severe charges are 2. One is incitement for terrorism, and also is being charged for mobilizing people for terrorism during the protests. These charges are really serious and severe. If he is condemned, is found guilty, he could serve 10 years plus years in jail, meaning that he would be banned from political participation, mainly for the 2028 and 2029 electoral cycle.
The director of CDD, the Center for Democracy and Development, Adriano Novunga.
Africa Update with Lulu Kabu, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time. No time to waste. Be on the move with Benjamin Moshatama and Palesa Tau.
We're speaking to Barbara Kamba-Nyathi, CEO and founder of Bold Dialogues, also an author, lifestyle and wellness coach. Today's gender-based violence. We focus on the elderly, a very vulnerable group in our communities and our societies, and we're looking at the abuse of the elderly, which comes in many, many forms. We continue this conversation with Barbara. Let's come into that, Barbara. The reason why why these abuses on the elderly continue is because it feels like we're trying hard in our societies to create systems that protect children, even though they're not that great as yet. We're trying hard in our societies to create systems that protect women. We're not doing a great job at it, but I mean, that has been a lot of conversation. But it feels like there hasn't been a lot of conversation, even a lot of policy on protecting the elderly in our societies. Why do you think that is?
For some strange reason, if you are elderly, the assumption, I feel it's a wrong assumption, is that you saved enough to take care of yourself, you are fine. These are the years whereby you are enjoying yourself, you are going on cruises and doing ABC. You know, you don't need to worry about people. But then also, the other thing that I've noticed is a phenomenon called compassion fatigue, whereby the caregivers of the elderly people, because they are taking care of the elders, and maybe let's say it's me, I may be having a husband, children of my own, and also my parents to take care of. Because there is no emotional support for the caregivers, they end up getting weary of taking care of the elders, because in your mind you are thinking, but you are an old person, you are grown up, you should know how to you should know how to behave, how to do this. But we forget that as you grow older, so for some strange reason, your mind, your body is regressing. You are turning back into a young person again, a toddler sometimes even.
Yeah, and something
Because
else.
our parents,
Sure. No, go on, Barbara. You were saying?
our parents tend to behave like toddlers if you look at them. When they grow older. So having to deal with my own toddlers and a grown-up toddler, sometimes it can be very overwhelming. And in the end, I develop what is called compassion fatigue. And I now take out my frustrations on the elderly person instead of getting my own psychological help, so that I don't burn out from taking care of the parents.
You know, another thing that can compound the abuse as well is loneliness. You know, most of the time, the elderly find themselves becoming more lonely. Their children probably have left the nest, and they also have busy lives. And at times they can be kind of like that as an excuse to say, well, we are dealing with what we're dealing in our own worlds. We can't necessarily accommodate mommy back at home. But I think also that separation can be a form of subtle abuse, maybe not so direct as other forms of abuse.
You are right. It's actually a form of abuse, and it can also lead, say, to sexual abuse. Let's say you've left your parents alone and they have no one to take care of them, but they need to supplement the meager financial assistance they get either from you or from their pension. Then they look for tenants, lodgers in the home, you know. You don't know what those people are going to do to your parents. And if it's an old lady left alone, she may get sexually abused by the tenants or even people in the community, because they see that she's vulnerable, she's alone.
Yeah, you know, when these vulnerabilities happen, many a times we think about, okay, when you are being abused, the next step is to report your abuse. It doesn't sound as cut and dry for the elderly, firstly because many of them have become weak physically and may not even be able to reach a place of help, like get to the police station or, you know, community members. And they can actually be stopped if they are close to their abusers, like family members. They can be stopped from reaching that care. So what exactly should the solution be? How do we protect the elderly, and how do we make sure they also receive justice against the, you know, the inequalities and the abuses that they face?
I think one of the first things we need to do is what we are doing right now, having this kind of conversation, Palesa. We need to have more of these conversations. And also when we conduct the awareness campaigns or educating people in the communities, we need to have programs for the elderly as well, so that they understand that they still have rights. Being old is not a crime. And anyway, we are all going there. So we need to set in place policies, have awareness, create platforms whereby even have the police, even just do random visits to elderly people in the community to find out how they are living. Are they happy? Are they safe? Is everything going well with them? Because it's everyone's duty to look after the elders. We are each other's keepers. And Ubuntu detects that I am because of you. So how can I be if I'm not because of the elders in my society?
You know, on a lighter note, Barbara, I always tell people, hey, man, I'm old now. And people are like, Ben, stop acting old. And I'm like, no, I am, And I've noticed with our generation, we tend to think that, youth is kind of the prime of life, right? And I've seen even other peers of mine in this trying to stay young. You also want to keep your parents young, and you have that kind of denial that as much as you're getting older, your parents are also getting older, and your responsibilities towards them are also going to change over time because of that age growth, because of the development of life, and because there is that circle of life whereby at some point you are going to be a caregiver one way or the other of your parents. How important is that element that we as children of our parents, of these elders, should start noting that and start taking that responsibility more serious?
I think it starts from us acknowledging that we are growing older, we are getting older. Because if we are in denial, it's difficult for us to accept that our parents can no longer take care of themselves. They need us to cater for them. So we need to have these conversations, create safe spaces, make the family a safe space for acknowledging what is happening and finding out, like just getting together and asking, how are you doing? How are you coping? Are you having any challenges? Because without us being told, sometimes it's difficult to guess that, I think my dad now needs this or my mother needs this,
Yeah.
So we need to have conversations so that we are aware of what is happening with people around us. And us also sharing with others the things that we are discovering in our bodies. Because every time as we grow older, things are happening to us.
Absolutely. Well, Barbara, we have to leave it there. We've run out of time. Barbara, where can we get hold of you? I know that you have so many great things and projects that you get up to. You have a beautiful newsletter as well that you always publish online. Tell us where people can get some of this help, because you always give great advice with your collective there in Zimbabwe.
I think I can give you my WhatsApp number. It's easier to reach me there, +263 7831 80802.
Thank you so much, Barbara. It's always a pleasure to chat to you, and thank you for helping us in this conversation. That is Barbara Kamba-Nyathi, CEO and founder of Bold Dialogue, also an author and lifestyle and wellness coach. It's 9:30 Central Africa time. At Channel Africa 1 is where you can participate in this conversation. Let us know what you think about elderly abuse, if you've seen it in your communities as well. Really important conversation for all of us to engage in. It's 9:30 Central Africa time. Let's get our latest sports news.